Hello and welcome to No Rest for the Weekend, the show where we go behind the scenes and talk to the creators of independent film and series. I'm Jason Godbey, and with me in the Rabbit Hole studio today is an accomplished director. You know him from his commercials for brands like Bergdorf Goodman and Nike and the Olympics, and his music videos with artists like Beyonce. Great to have him here, Mr. Blake Farber.
Oh, thank you, Jason. Thank you for having me, and thanks for all the viewers and watchers.
Thanks for coming. We always appreciate having people here. So, Blake, I want to get right into it and just kind of start. I always ask people, just to give a little bit about themselves and how they got started. What is your origin story? How did you get rolling in the film biz?
Okay, so I was born with a camera in my hand, almost literally. Like, my parents are both photographers, so we basically traveled the world, and I went with them. Instead of taking an hour straight drive, we took the scenic route. It took 4 hours to get there, but we shoot amazing things. So growing up, traveling with them and working with or being on set with my father, and who's a photographer, and my mom, who's also a photographer, and with that kind of inspiration, instead of turning stills, let's turn it into something visual, something motion, and tell stories and emotions and everything like that. So then I also, on my other side, was a musician. So I played in this little rock band and everything, and we toured all over the place. And then I started to meet people, and somebody said, "Oh, you're a director. Can you film this band and this band, this band?" And suddenly, from the band and through networks, I met all these people, and through the photography and music side, it led to doing music videos and more or less where I am today. And
so you started out, this sounds like it just happened like very organically. It was like one thing led to another, and you were able to parlay your music experience and your music video experience into making more music videos for like bigger and bigger name artists. And it sounds like you've done a lot of snowballing kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the networking pool. It's the networking game where, for example, one of our record labels in Italy, he said, "Let's do some music videos here." So I set up, like, as if I was a band, a music video tour, and setting up different places where I would network with record labels when I was there, or people, friends, and it just led to the snowball effect and networking.
What is your approach? Like, because I've done some music video work, and it's always like, for me, it's like someone approaches me and say, "Hey, can you film this? We have an idea." They have a concept that they want me to help kind of bring about. With you, are you coming to them with a concept, or is it like, how's your collaboration work?
Okay, it depends. The artist, the country, and who I'm dealing with. Am I dealing with the label? Like in America, is it with Sony, Columbia, etc., or is it with the independent up-and-coming one? And usually the independent ones are the most fun because you can be the most creative, spirited.
They give you more free reign.
Oh yeah, everything. But sometimes the budgets are less, so you have that compromise. The other thing is, so sometimes the artist sends me a song, they have a basic idea, and then I write a basic treatment idea visually and literally, like, just what I think and thought and stuff like that. And growing up watching 90s music videos and such, it gave so much inspiration when there was budgets on these videos. And so it was a mix. The artist has a basic idea, or I have an idea. We throw each other together, or sometimes when it's a bigger artist, the label has an idea, the manager.
Of like how they want to showcase the artist,
exactly.
Kind of thing.
Unless you're Beyonce.
Yeah.
Then you have the idea.
I was going to ask you about Beyonce, because she doesn't seem like a woman who doesn't know what she wants. Like,
she knows everything, and in that way, it's the most respect to her.
Right, because you're coming in basically, you're sort of shepherding the video in that way.
Right.
Like you're saying, she's in front of the camera, she can't be at two places at once.
Right.
And she's kind of trusting you to be her eyes and ears and make sure the whole thing goes smoothly.
Exactly.
All right. I mean, that was kind of the, because I didn't think you were telling her what to do in terms of, saying, but yeah, there are people who say, we want a video, but we have no idea. And you say, well, then you start getting into it, like, well, who are you, and how do you want to come off, and like, what's the vision of this? What's the song about,
mm-hmm.
And how do we get some great visuals to go along with his idea.
Right.
You did actually really cool. Forgive me, I can't remember the band. You did a really cool video that was made of like still pictures animation.
Dropkick Murphys.
That was really. I thought that looked great because it had this. It was really had a tremendous energy to it, and I really I loved how kinetic it was, even though the images themselves were still.
Yeah.
But it's all editing.
Right.
How did you do something like that?
So we had this great tour photographer, and he basically was traveling everywhere with them, and then we were discussing concepts with one of their teams or managers and such like that, and they wanted to do something different, and we're like, okay, instead of, because I've seen videos they've done, and sometimes some of these artists, especially more aggressive rock and roll or something like that, they're not the most comfortable or not the best actors on camera. So what are they best at? They're best at performing live in front of thousands of people, and to show how international they are. Though they're an Irish punk band from Boston, they've played all over the world and everywhere, and even they're in Scorsese's film, and I think they're nominated or they won the Oscar for that.
Oh, very cool.
Correct me if I'm wrong. But
I'm sure somebody on the internet will when this hits the internet.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't blog about this.
some diehard Dropkick Murphys.
Yeah,
fans.
exactly. I'm sorry, the city of Boston.
They're gonna write in and
yeah
and tell you.
Hate mail, right?
Yeah. This is the the band, and this is where they're from exactly. But anyway.
Yeah. So
you were saying.
digress into. To doing something more visually and something different, where a compilation of everything, behind the scenes, stills, everything, and just blasting. That's the great thing with these DSLR cameras. They have the I think servo, what's it called, where they just like rapid fire machine gun mode, and we just kept shooting photos, and then the tour photographer covered a bunch, which did such an amazing job of really capturing the energy of the band, because that's the energy of the band.
Right, and then you're obviously putting all that stuff together in editing, which has got to be like that must have been that's like putting together a documentary or something like that.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You have so much to deal with where you're.
And I actually just edited the whole thing, and I'm just like, okay, so let's figure where do we start. Okay, let's start in the backstage. Perfect place to start, right before the show, and then explosion with the band starting in the chorus.
It was very cool. I love the way that is put together. So music videos somehow led you to doing commercials. Now, commercials, for those of you who don't know, most directors do not get to go from feature to feature. You're not if you're an aspiring director listening to this or watching this, chances are you're not going to have Steven Spielberg's career. But so in between movies or in between TV shows, a lot of people direct commercials, and some people do this exclusively. And it's a way that you can be really creative and make a living, because some of the, like, when I see your commercial reel, I'm like, this is cinema. Like, this stuff looks like movies. And they have real production value to them. It's a real challenge because you're telling a story in like 30 seconds. And you're getting this point across. And for me, I just kind of like the commercial for Nike. I loved the commercial for Bergdorf Goodman that you did. And then is it Gitano?
Betano.
Betano, yes.
From Eastern Europe.
That was like that thing made me cry.
Oh,
like
you.
That one with it's European football, it's soccer. So you're telling this wonderful like generational story in like what, a minute?
That's the part you want to just choke yourself and say, man, I wish this could be 90 minutes.
Right, like you wish but you're so in one way it's like, well, no, I'm not directing a feature, but it's actually harder, because you're having to get this message across and tell this story in so little time. So one thing I noticed about your commercials is that they're very visual. Like, it's really visual storytelling, like very little dialogue and things like that. But before we get too deep into the deep dive of making commercials, how did you get into commercial making?
Okay. So throughout doing music videos and realizing that there is not much money in music anymore, sadly, some places, besides maybe Korea for K-pop, which is insane, beautiful budgets, which is rare. But from, for example, doing more musical pieces, these agencies approached me in various countries and locally in the U.S., and they said, we want to get a music video director, someone who has that kind of background. So it started with a commercial still, which is that lawnmower commercial. It's this opera singer singing, and they wanted a musical director, someone who has with musicals and stuff like that, and music videos are musicals. So I was lucky enough to do that, and then that also snowballed into doing something else and something else. And luckily, my great producer friend, Eric Iverson, who's most amazing, hopping to commercial, he gave me a chance to work on the Olympic commercial, which was a major honor because the Olympics and things like the World Cup kind of speak my name, where it's international and it's the whole world together and sports.
Because you're an international guy. Like, you work all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a New Yorker by birth, right?
Yeah, I'm from New York.
So, I mean, you grew up in an international city, but you're basically the United Nations. Like, you've worked in Korea, you've worked in
30 countries.
30 countries.
Yeah, we can go through them if you like.
No, we don't have enough time. But so you did that first commercial, and then did you start then? Because I know you're like a networking guy. Like, you were your own agent when you first started out. So you're making phone calls and you're getting the word out about yourself. And how did that work? Like, were you able to then take that reel and then start marketing yourself to other people who wanted commercials done, or other production companies?
Basically that. It was just really the beautiful internet is our yellow pages of today, of technology, which you can search on Google or whatever, Yahoo, whatever you use, to search on any of these companies and find the top production companies in different countries. And I just literally just cold called them at a convenient time for them, which is probably 4 a.m. my time or something like that. And just became friends with them and started talking to them, because also there's times where people approach me saying, hey, we want to shoot in Russia. Do you have any contacts? We want to shoot in the, North Korea. Do you have any contacts? Well, maybe. But so with that kind of just mentality where you get kind of boards in from these different projects. But the biggest problem I was having is, so I had more musical style commercials, and then I had more a sports thing. So the biggest problem is they say, you need one. You can't have just one or the other, but you can have a lot of each, but I just have a few of each, so I didn't have much. So I was like, you know what? I have to do my own commercials. I have to shoot spec commercials, which are great things, and just literally just come up with your own idea and make something happen. And I was like, you know what? I love these athletic commercials, so I want to become more into that. And this brings up to a question you asked earlier, which was the Nike thing. And in all honesty, that was a spec commercial I just created for myself.
Really?
Yeah.
So when you're doing that, that's like, and did you then sell that to Nike, or is that something that they picked up on?
Actually, no. It was more of a personal project. A great cinematographer friend I work with, John Enstrom. I approached him, and he luckily has access to some gear. So we made things for not so much money, where I saved up, where we can make something really great and amazing and something fun. And in fact, that commercial led to so many new doors through production companies or production companies I established myself with, agents, reps, just various people.
So you were able to say, hey, here's a piece of work that I've done, send it around, and you're going for the brass ring, because you've got the swoosh on there, and you've got like, here is everybody's outfit in a Nike. Yeah. You're dealing with one of probably the most recognizable athletic brand ever, and you are putting it out there saying, here's what I could do for this company. I could do the same thing for you. But you did that with the intention of nobody's going to buy this commercial for them.
Yeah.
This is just an example of work I could do.
Right, exactly. It's more of a kind of personal thing to show that it's possible, because these agencies, would say every director could do something amazing. Everybody can do something amazing who is in the filmmaking, but the fact is they want to see you can sell something within the 30 seconds, 2 minutes, minute and a half kind of thing.
Basically, you're proving a point. You're saying, because I talked about this with feature directors, and it's like nobody knows you can direct a feature unless you've directed a feature.
Exactly.
And no one will let you unless you've already done it, which is it's a big catch-22. I've done some commercial work myself. I've directed I've created commercials on spec, just so, I could show somebody something.
Mm-hmm.
And, it can be kind of a bitter pill to swallow because they're not cheap. I mean, you can find ways to make them cheap, but it's like this, I find myself rubbing up against this all the time, where it's like, well, I've got to make this. I don't have a lot of budget, but yet I've still got to impress people.
Exactly.
So how do I get those two things to measure up and like get in line with one another, where I don't necessarily have to spend a ton of money on set design and art direction and all those things that, show off the budget, but I'm still getting great cinematography and I'm getting great performances and I'm working with, either name athletes or I'm getting people who look like real athletes. How long for that commercial? I mean, because it's so well put together. How long did it take you to put that all together?
Perhaps 2 weeks or so. Pre-production a week, and so post on my side was like another week and a half or two.
So you're putting this all together really quick.
Very quick, because the beautiful part is that we shot that in a random 65-degree weather in January, which is just random. So it's like, if we shoot next week, it's going to be a snowstorm. The week before, it's going to be a snowstorm. This pocket is perfect.
Yeah, I've had the same thing happen to me. Especially shooting in the South. Like, if you don't like the weather in New York, wait a week.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, for people who are maybe looking to get into that, because we were talking earlier about, like, music videos and how viable they are.
Mm-hmm.
Our music, like, first question, music videos, you said there's not a lot of money in them right now, but are they good for your reel?
They're great for doing more music videos, and the best thing, most important thing, is their practice. So every filmmaker, every director, whatever you do, an actor or anything of that sort, creatively, anything, you have to practice. You have to make mistakes. You have to lose. You have to win again, and you have to fall back and come back again, and everything around that nature. So one big thing is that their practice, and you have a budget behind it, and the band promotes it, the label promotes it. You promote it, your friends promote it, the actors promote it. So you have everybody promoting your short film, and music videos are the last viral creative outlets in that kind of way, where many people can see something, but there's a budget behind it. So you get paid, maybe not a lot, but you can produce something creatively and honestly practice, and you learn about yourself and your style.
If you wanted to get into that, would you recommend doing the same thing, like doing like a spec music video, or either taking a song yourself from a known band? I don't know how cool that is, because then you get into rights, right. Or just partnering with a band and coming up with a concept with them and saying, hey, let's do this music video. This way you get a video and I get a real piece, that kind of thing.
I've had friends that said that, where it's like, I love your band. Listen, I just want to do a video. Just sorry, you don't have to pay me. I just want to do it. And sometimes they've used it and they loved it. But there's other times where, for example, everybody here today in this building, in this room, in this New York City, knows somebody who plays in a band, knows somebody of that nature, knows a struggling artist, singer-songwriter, anything, even a guy playing on the streets. You could love his music, you could love her performance and so on, and you honestly just ask him. And that's your spec.
Talking about like commercial work and stuff like that, also, like you mentioned making a spec commercial. Say I'm a struggling director, I'm trying to break into commercials. Maybe I don't have the bucks to put into a spec myself. But what can I do? Like, if you're a doctor, give me the prescription of like, what can I do to get not only just like make something, but get it out there and get it in front of people. Because like we were talking before, you served as your own agent. So like, what's the sales pitch? How are you saying, hey, this is me, I made this thing, check it out, I'd love to make these things for you? Like, what is that like in terms of trying to break in and like get to the next level?
So that's why the music video world is great, as a place where, as I mentioned, you're practicing, you're busy, you're doing your craft. And one thing I learned from a fellow director was, a director should always direct, no matter what it is. It could be a hospital video, it could be a corporate video, but you're directing, you're practicing. That's the most important part. You're doing your craft, you're doing your career, you're doing your love and everything. So no matter what it takes, you do it. So that's why in music videos, some of these videos are not hard to get, and you don't have to do a whole treatment and bidding process. You can just get the job and get some money for it, just to pay expenses, or even don't make any money and pay it for getting a better lens, a better camera, an Alexa, and therefore you have an amazing reel and you have an amazing idea to show the world. That's why there's so many filmmakers these days and of artists.
And then in terms of the networking piece, because like you did, you said you cold called people. What's the pitch for what's the pitch for Blake Farber? Like how do you do that, and like how do you not come off needy? How do you not come off like how do you make it so that you're like, hey, this is me, and this is what I do, and this is how it's going to benefit you to work with me.
Right. Yeah. Why would we want to fly this New York City guy from all the way across the world over to our country? Why would we want to do that? So you have to make a sales pitch. This is where the sales part comes in. The marketing part is, why would they want you to fly there? Is that you kind of have to make a marketing point to saying, listen, if you were to hire, this is the greatest part of being from America, is that using the American name, or being from New York, is such a respected kind of thing where America produces amazing talent, which people actually do respect. They do quite respect. So sometimes it looks better on their promotion, directed by this guy from New York, this guy from LA, this guy from Kansas, anything like that. So sometimes it looks better on that kind of thing. But the biggest thing is you're dealing with so many cultures in all these different countries and different personalities, and you kind of have to understand their culture. And most of the time, they want to meet you first. They want to have drinks with you. They want to have coffee. They want to talk to you first. So, in fact, sometimes I had extra miles, and I just flew there and met people myself and became friends with them, and including adding them on social media platforms, and them seeing how busy and running around I am to make it seem like, we should work with this guy, because it's kind of like dating.
Right. If you're in demand, or if you seem like you're in demand, you're more like, and, like what you're talking about too, like this is hard, kids. This is like, this is pounding the pavement. This is getting to know people. It's like shaking hands, and there's also a genuineness to it. So I feel like if I'm a production company, or if I'm a brand, I'm like hiring this guy I know. Like I've gotten to know you. We've had coffee, we've had drinks, or whatever it is, and I feel comfortable with you as a person, so that I know you're not gonna blow all of my money making the wrong thing. I mean, you right now, you've built up quite a resume, and you have quite a reel to show people. It's like, hey, listen, I know how to do this. I think it's harder when you start out if you don't have that. But yeah, all that stuff, and being able to be like a nice guy and sell yourself and get yourself out there. And the other thing that you do that's commendable is you don't just work like your commute isn't here to Brooklyn or the Bronx, or so you're working in Korea, because that's where the money is. And very few people don't understand that. Like, they think it's New York or LA and that's it.
Yeah.
The market out there is so much bigger than all of that.
Yeah, let's look at the graphics here, okay? So let's take the green screen here and make it a graphic. No, it's too much work. So let's look at China. China population is about 1.5 billion. Probably it's 1.7, just the difference from that minute to this minute. And they're buying all the movie studios, including Legendary Pictures. So they just completely bought that, and they bought some others, and they're buying some animation studios and such. And they're producing and funding a lot of films. And so China is kind of the new Hollywood, where they don't have their own inner Hollywood. They're using the world as their Hollywood. So they're like, let's invest in these people. And they want to get, it's a lot of times they don't want to get local Chinese directors. They want to get foreign ones. They want to get Europeans. They want to get Americans and various other countries. And so that's the amazing benefit of that, is outside the box. And then let's look at the second or third biggest movie studio outside Hollywood, or is Bollywood, India, another place, population 1 billion and growing, and millions of more people. We have no idea how many more live there. So that is a huge one. And then let's look at the third one, or the fourth one. It's Nairobi in Nigeria, which takes care of the whole African continent as a whole, which is a huge movie studio, including Beast of No Nation, stuff like that, and these other major films they're also kind of producing that not many people realize. And what they're accomplishing And if you look at Bollywood sets, they're insane.
I mean, they've really built up these industries, and it's like people have to, and even in America, like it's not just Hollywood anymore. It's Atlanta, it's Austin, it's Chicago, it's New York.
Right.
Like there's so many places that you can work, but you've got to be willing to get outside your comfort zone and go to those different places if you want to make a living, because that's what this show is all about. It's like talking about how to make a living in this business.
Right.
So before we wrap up, we got to wrap up in a few minutes, but talk to me about because we just talked to like sort of Blake the businessman. Let's talk to Blake the creative. You just did a commercial for. Can I say the name? Can I?
Sure.
Okay, so you just did this commercial for Kotex that looks like a freaking action movie. Talk to me a little bit about like inspiration and so forth for that.
Okay. Let's break into the marketing point. One time, it's a China commercial where I was like, I always want to get a China business. So I just decided to fly there one day, met people, and next thing you know, 2 months later, I got that job offer, which was just quickly overnight. And in fact, the way I got that commercial was the Nike. The client loved the Nike commercial, and see how that kind of snowballs into this. And in that commercial, we're shooting this famous Chinese celebrity skateboarding, swimming underwater, so I had to go scuba diving in these scenes, swimming on top of the water, and jumping off a building on Christmas Day. And it's like, how did you celebrate at Christmas, kids? Well, I celebrate jumping off a Thailand skyscraper. So you never know where this adventure leads you. And one thing is just amazing because we're in all these different locations, and and fighting. We had these amazing action choreographers and stunt people, and they're just amazing jumping off buildings.
It looks tremendous.
Oh,
like
thank you.
the thing
Thank
looks
you.
like an action movie. I was so impressed by how cinematic it was.
But that's commercials today. That's how fun they are.
You've got to make them look like movies.
Yeah. In fact, I flew my cinematographer John Enstrom with me, the one who did the Nike commercial and one who did this. So it's like a great little friendship.
Yeah, it's always good to have like a team of people that you're working with. Anyway, I do have to wrap up, but thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Tell us where can people find you on the web?
BlakeFarber.com, Instagram, the Facebook fan page, Blake Farber Films, and it's I don't have many followers on there, but the best part is you can see all these crazy places I go to, and be free to write me or ask me any questions.
Thanks so much, and thank you so much for watching. Thank you for taking this trip down the rabbit hole. I'm Jason Godbey. If you want to hear more of this podcast, or if you want to see us, we're on YouTube. We're also on Anchor and Stitcher and iTunes and all the places that you listen to podcasts. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.